Hello, my name is Chase Mitchell. We're going to do a project that was suggested by my introduction to film class for the movie The Terminator. Woo! So this is an all-time classic to me personally. I mean, I grew up obviously watching my dad 80s movies. We watched a ton of that when I was younger. This was one of the first of like this general sci-fi that's not Star Wars or because I watched this with like Terminator and Alien, but that's my personal point with it. So then we're gonna go on. So you see little robots there. They're really cool. Little exoskeletons. I think they're very cool. So the era this movie was in. So this was the rise of action and sci-fi films. Now there's some directors, example Quentin Tarantino says that this is the dark ages of films. Personally, I disagree, but like I said, opinions on films, movies, anything is subjective. Also, this movie brought a lot of sci-fi with AI. I'm gonna get into that later, and the growth, like the destruction of the world, the Cold War fear text. You'll see like the Cold War tech fears. You'll see this because at this time this is like not the height of the Cold War, but this is still in the Cold War, and they were just going back and forth, and you were thinking, oh, is this gonna be the ending with the Russians, with America? They go back and forth with this, and I feel like this movie also helps with that with the end of the world thing with bombs, nukes, obviously with Skynet in the movie. We'll get into that later. Then this was the growth of blockbuster cinema. I mean, Arnold Schwarzenegger and was the king of the blockbuster movie. Now he had a little thing with Sylvester Stallone for a bit, but he was the king of this. There's a ton of movies he was in, Total Recall, just everything. I think it's great that these type of movies happened because it shows up like this. We have a lot of movies today like this. I mean, we'll have Marvel. We might not even have Marvel movies or superhero movies like the Terminator. Believe it or not, it's a crazy thing to think about, but it's true. Okay, so why is it important? This obviously, like I said, this is iconic sci-fi film. At the time, there was only Star Trek shows and Star Wars. This got involved more with actual robots instead of just droids, like helping droids, like C-3PO in Star Wars and R2-D2. And this action film was crazy. It had a lot of guns, explosions. I mean, just crazy. It was just off the wall. Like the Terminator was just like just destroying everyone, murdering, killing cops, just anyone he can to get in his way to get to Sarah Connor. I thought it was just a really thought out thing of how they did, especially with action with the guns. Especially later in the movie, toward the end, how the Terminator gets defeated. But I think it's really cool. This movie had major cultural impact. Obviously, the line "I will be back." It's that one, and obviously with Arnold Schwarzenegger, like I said, being the king of the blockbuster movies back in the day. I mean, look at this. I mean, obviously this started in the Terminator franchise because you have Terminator 2, which is arguably the best one. Then you have some more down the line, and they created a lot of them. Now people can have their own opinions on how they view each movie, which one's better, which one's worse. But I just think it's really cool to see that this started a great franchise with a lot of memorable lines, memorable moments, just everything. I mean, you can go look at any like cutaway for a show or like any like reference for a joke in the show, and it's there. It's always going to be there because it's an iconic movie. Plot overview. So obviously, so in the future, there's Sarah Connor in the background. It's one of the, this is arguably the main character other than Kyle. I forgot his last name. It was Kyle, and then there's the cyborg. So the beginning of the movie is like there's a war with the future, like the early 2000s. Now, this would be our time now, like 2030 and stuff, but this is our time, but that's how it was viewed in this movie because it's only goes back to the 80s. So, a cyborg by Skynet was sent to the future to eliminate the mother of John Connor, who John Connor in the future was just a great leader. Basically, like if you think of like George Washington or Theodore Roosevelt in like wars, he's basically like that. But so Skynet, what they do is they lose the war to the humans eventually after they take over the world's computer networks, get nukes, try to kill the humans, and see humans as threats. So they send a cyborg, like back in the future, which is Arnold Schwarzenegger. He is man and robot. This targets Sarah Connor. So what they do is they send back the humans send back a soldier, Kyle Rain. I forgot his last name. I'm sorry, but Kyle goes back to protect Sarah Connor. And then later things go out. I mean, she gets by the police. They get attacked at the police station. You later figure out that Kyle is the father of John Connor. It's a little time paradox thing because I know time travel in this movie is weird. And this goes in a back and forth thing across movies with like this future, like sending robots to the future and past. But the robots are really hard to kill. It eventually ends with Kyle dying, and then Sarah Connor gets saved, and she understands everything, how important she is. The kind of characters, obviously. One of my sources, Martin says in a film review, it's one of the most popular robots of film in general. It's Arnold Schwarzenegger, what's the Terminator, the T-800. Obviously, it says put by Arnold Schwarzenegger. This guy was a complete freak of nature of a bad guy. He went over everywhere. He was just destroying people and no emotion whatsoever because he's a robot. He's programmed to do it. That's usually how it works. But he was just destroying everyone. Everyone knows the character. That's just iconic. That's arguably Schwarzenegger's most iconic film as his entire career. Well made. Obviously, this movie it's very simple but very effective, especially with the oncoming threat. I mean, look at this guy. This guy's an animal. This guy just destroys everything. There's a lot of suspense and action mix, especially with the Terminator just mowing people down, and then people like they'll fire guns at him, explosives. It barely even affects this guy. He just keeps going. He's like a slasher villain, but instead of like an actual slasher, he's a robot. This movie is very strong pacing. It doesn't have a point where it just keeps going, stopping and going, stopping and going. It always keeps going at a very good rate. And I think it's really cool because it's just we a lot of movies now, which I like more intricate plots, but it's simple and it works. That's why it's awesome. The themes, obviously, look at this robot here. This guy just it's technology versus humanity. Now, the whole thing with Skynet, the robots think that they like humanity is the problem with the Earth. They're trying to save it. They destroy it. Goskelo in my sources puts this is the future of humanity. What he means by that is it's literally the humans fighting back, and it's just hope. I mean, it's like a basic hope story that they're always going to find a way to win, no matter how bad the situation is, how strong the robots are, no matter how powerful they are and how weak they are. Then obviously there's time travel paradox with this movie. Of course, obviously with Kyle being the dad of John Connor, who's a future who he knew in the future, but he obviously met Sarah Connor, and they created a child. So I mean, it's a simple plot that's really hard to mess up, but they do it in a very effective way, which works. The technology and effects. So this is designed by Stan Winston, and it was realistic cyborg effects and advanced practical effects. The cyborg looks very real. It moves normally. It's not clunky. It's going like It's not going to be like that. It's actually moving and going well with it. The advanced practical effects with guns, the makeup, especially with the cyborg with the skin coming off, and it shows more of him just being a robot. I think it's just really cool to see because obviously we still see that now, but we didn't really see it as much back in the day. We really did, and this is one of the first movies to really do that. Now you can make some arguments it's not the first, it's not the best to do it, but it was definitely one of the catalysts for creating that stuff. The gender and characters. I mean, Goskela also puts that it's an independent single young woman. So Sarah Connor at the beginning of the movie is very like she's very innocent, very normal, like very normal girl in LA in the 80s. And later on, especially when Terminator 2, like I said, it challenges gender roles right here, where she becomes the strongest person, like mentally. I mean, physically, obviously the Terminator is, but she becomes very hardened with life, especially if her life is almost going to be killed. I just think it's a really cool thing to see because I mean, there's only like one really main female character here, but she's a very strong female role and very strong lead that works because it's an overall change because of what happens to her that night, that weekend fighting the Terminator. It's very enjoyable. Fast paced, it's dark toned. I mean, I'm not super edgy. I don't like the super edgy movies, but I think it's very cool to see. And memorable scenes like "I'll be back," and then the cop car goes in, and then obviously with the Terminator getting crushed by the thing at the trash, the garbage plant, with it getting crushed. It's very memorable scenes. Has some very memorable lines. Obviously, "I'll be back." I said it like 4 times, I know, but it's really cool. It's a really cool Just really cool line because it's a perfect voice how Schwarzenegger said it. But it's very fast paced, very fun, very action filled, and there's some memorable plot things. The legacy. This inspired sequels of the movie. I think there's like five of them after this. This influenced sci-fi films with robots and AI, and it popularized AI themes, especially now, especially with ChatGPT and all this stuff. People figuring it's going to take jobs, get into the military, and just run the world. Which I'm not a big fan of that. But let's not act like this movie didn't create ideas in people's head about this at all. The genre, obviously, this is an action, a thriller. The horror elements are more like a slasher horror thing that he's always going to rise back up and chase after them. But it's an action and thriller because it always keeps you on your feet. It's never gonna because you don't know what's gonna happen to be honest when you watch this for your first time. Even with Terminator 2 and the rest of them, it's a really cool thing to see, especially with especially with the twists and turns in the movie with him coming right back up again after being hurt. You know, we're excited. It's Martin Sarah, but the Terminator. That's the by it's an encyclopedia and the Gale ebooks. Then here's Margaret Goskella with the deconstruction of the Terminator film. It's a film critic, and then the Terminator directed by James Cameron, which is the script of the movie. I just want to say thank you for letting me do this speech. I really love this movie, and I'm glad I was able to do this project.